My mother opened this pharmacy, Hughes Pharmacy, on the 16th of May 1955. And as you can see, we're now coming up to the 70th anniversary. She started the pharmacy from scratch. It had previously been a sweet shop here on Belmore Street. And she started with just one counter assistant, Mina McDermott.
Everybody knows me as Mina McDermott, but I used to be Mina Harkin, my maiden name. And I was Mrs. Hughes's first shop assistant. Can't believe it's 70 years ago. I was 15 years old and I was standing beside her as she opened the door and we walked into the shop. I suppose, with much trepidation as far as I'm concerned. And then I got fitted with my white coat and thought I was the bee's knees. She was lovely to me and caring. She taught me a lot over the years that I was there. She taught me a lot about business. I've learned an awful lot from her. And to this day, I even remember the phone number. It was 2460. And I was there when Paul was born. Would you believe it?
She started off very much not knowing what the future held and was hoping that her business would take off and she would be able to cultivate a relationship with the local community. As her time progressed, she did that. And she became very much part of the community here in Belmore Street and in Enniskillen generally.
Late 60s, early 70s, but I went to Florida in 76. And in that time most of us were young and in good health, But we knew that the sisters went to Hughes's and we knew that there was always a great rapport with Hughes's. It's about building, our confidence has been built, each of us individually. We've been told that Hughes's, they're fine, but that would be my experience, would be that we have learned ourselves that it's earned over a long period of time, really. That confidence is built.
No, I lived in this house since 1961, and it was shortly after that we got married, and we had our first baby, and this was our opportunity to meet Joan Hughes, who was Paul's mother, and that was 58 years ago. So we have been with the Hughes family since that. They live in a house just opposite us here, and Joan lived there until she died. And in latter days, whenever Paul was busy, I would go across and arrange for taxis to take her to wherever her treatment would be.
Back a long way. Firstly, in the 1960s, I was a near neighbour. I was working in Key Lane, just across the way here, a few minutes walk from the shop. And those heady days of the 1960s and 70s, Hughes's on a Monday morning was the place to go for an Alka-Seltzer if you had a hangover. But the foundations on which the Hughes's pharmacy business was built on 70 years ago is rock solid, led by a wonderful, inspiration, tenacious lady, Paul's mother, Mrs. Laura Hughes. Ever positive, assertive, always friendly, courteous and helpful. I remember her fondly. The last time I met Mrs. Hughes, she was still working here in the pharmacy. One day I was in and she asked me how my mother was doing, and I said, she's doing fine. She's actually waiting for me outside in the car. Oh, she says, I'll go out and say hello to her. Tell her I'll be out in a minute. She asked one of the girls to accompany her safely through the traffic crossing the street. She sat into the driver's seat of my car, and Mrs. Hughes and Mum chatted away for about a half an hour, just like old times. They were both good people. God bless them both.
My name's Sylvia Blaney. I have been associated with Clare House since probably 1991, and we've used Hughes Pharmacy since that. Mrs. Hughes Senior was a big part of our supports in the community whenever we came here, and all medications came from Hughes, which was extremely helpful.
I've known Mrs. Hughes for the past 40 years. Whenever we came back from Belfast, and I went into the chemist, and was nothing too much trouble for her. And with children being small, I always looking for medication, and she was always there to help me. And I really had great faith in her, and she was such a lovely lady. And her son now, Paul, is just as good as his mother was, because he looks after us so well, and all my medication that I'm on at the minute. And I hope that Paul has a long and happy life, just like his mother. She was such a lady.
My name's Sadie Coates, and I moved to number 8 Chanterhill Road, next door to Mrs. Hughes, who continued to be a wonderful friend, and her family. Her family constantly lived in my house, and they loved the chocolate cakes that I made, especially Elizabeth. And Joan Hughes is and was a wonderful friend to me. Many good times I would get phone calls from Mrs. Hughes in the evening. Could you come over? I need you. So I would go way over to Hughes's, and she'd say, sit at that piano and play.
Her business became very much the centre of her life and the centre of her day-to-day existence. During her married life, she had 6 children, and most of that time my father was working away from home. So she had her hands full being a mother to 6 young children, and also doing her best to run a business and build the business up as best she could over that period of time. She did that in an extremely efficient way, and it went from strength to strength over the years. So much so that, as I say, she became very much centre to the local community in a lot of ways. As we lived next door to the pharmacy from 1955 until 1968 or 69, it was a regular occurrence that even after the shop was closed at night, there'd be a knock on the door, or somebody coming and ringing and saying, looking for something in an emergency or something that they hadn't got the previous day. My mother never turned anybody away, and she was only too happy to facilitate her customers. She built a reputation up from that as always being ready, a good ear to listen to, and ready to look after people and provide for their needs. And she maintained that right up until she stopped working in the shop in her 80s. And even though at that stage she had withdrawn quite a bit and was only working sort of sporadically, she still had the business very much at the centre of her life. And as she told me once, it meant everything to her. And when you build something up from scratch, it means a lot to you. The community at large, I think, did appreciate my mother, and she became very well known in the community. And a lot of people would come to her, not only for medication, but for advice on everyday needs. And I'm glad to say that those people, their children and their children's children are still frequenting the pharmacy and are still very much of our patient base and regular customers. From my own point of view, I suppose, being brought up in a pharmacy environment from you're a little child and being used to day-to-day goings on in the pharmacy, and your mother coming and going from the pharmacy to home on a daily basis, it was not unexpected that I and my brother John would join or become pharmacists and hopefully join the business. I graduated in 1982 and worked for a couple of years in England, managing a pharmacy in County Durham for 2 years before I came home, which was a terrific experience, and was able to bring home new ideas and new work practices to our own pharmacy, which helped to improve things. But in 1985, as I came back into the pharmacy to work alongside my mother, who at that stage was in her 60s and was looking for a bit of help. I think we worked quite well together generally, although like every mother and son, you would have points of difference. But we did get on generally quite well, and we decided to expand the business in 1989, which entailed taking on Newtown Butner Pharmacy, which I had worked in as a locum previously. The opportunity came to purchase the business from the previous owner, Ignatius O'Neill, and we bought it, and the plan was that my brother John would come home and get involved in the business as well. John did come home at that time and worked for a while alongside us, but decided after a period of time to go back to England again. He did help establish the business and allowed me to move between Enniskillen and Newtown Butner, where my mother was still involved, so we tried to wind her days down a bit, and she was usually working maybe 2 or 3 days a week. Myself and John were running the other 2. We have won quite a few awards, including Northern Ireland Pharmacy of the Year here for Enniskillen. And Newtown Butler Pharmacy won the Northern Ireland Newmark Pharmacy of the Year and was runner-up in the UK, which are very prestigious awards. We've also won other awards about health and well-being, and I myself was nominated 3 times for Northern Ireland Pharmacist of the Year. All those things, I think, are not so much the individual glory, but it's the fact that it's approval. It shows you that there's customer patient approval of what you're doing, and the public at large approve of what you're doing and think you're doing it well. So I'd like to think that is the case, and moving forward, who knows, we may or may not win some more awards. I was very generously given an award by the Fermanagh Herald last year for Business Achievement, Lifetime Business Achievement Award, which I was very surprised and shocked and honoured to win, which again I think is just an approval rating for the pharmacy and the pharmacies themselves.
You know, Paul is just a wealth of knowledge, isn't he?
I've seen Paul now a few times in the paper, like advocating for, like he's a voice for all the pharmacists that don't own the building. I think I read there the other day on the farm, Paul said, well, they own the building. But like pharmacists are under such stress and distress with financially. But Paul's a voice for them, I say.
And we have had great staff over the years, my mother before me and me now, and we're grateful to all those people for their efforts. They've all been hard workers and all very interested and loyal to the business. And without them, we couldn't do anything. So we're very much grateful to them, and this anniversary is very much for their benefit as well as mine.
Happened one day, went to the pharmacist, just wasn't feeling great, got the blood pressure done, and I must have held back the pharmacist for a good half an hour. And God love that girl, she's away travelling now, but only for her, I think I could have been in more trouble than I was. And she done an awful lot for me and sent me away to A&E and couldn't have done more for me. And when I came back on my feet again and back to work, Paul happened to be there and he says, "How are you? I hope you're feeling better," and was very concerned for me. And I thought that was just so nice. He wasn't even there the day it happened.
has been a saviour to me, because I was caring for this elderly relative, and all during COVID. And she was, quite anxious about different things. And he was so good. He went over and above the call of duty, coming out, delivering the things as soon as possible, because she was on a lot of medication. And it was just, honestly, I couldn't speak more highly about it.
I'm Laura. I'm Paul Hughes' daughter, and I was named after my granny, Laura Hughes. I'd like to be a pharmacist when I'm older and hopefully take over the family business.
Looking into the future, hopefully we can go on from this and continue to go, although it's a very, very difficult climate at the moment for community pharmacy. There are funding issues across the board in Northern Ireland, whereby Northern Ireland Pharmacy is just not being funded by the Department of Health properly. There are pharmacies that have closed over the last few years, and there are a lot of pharmacies under threat, and all of us are experiencing difficulties and hardship. And hopefully that we can get over that, get the funding model right, get a proper contract and move forward. My own point of view, my nephew and niece are both pharmacists and they have worked in the business. My youngest girl, I'm sure you'll see her in this video, is showing some interest, although we're not trying to push her in any particular direction. But she's 10 years of age at the moment and she is showing interest. We'll see what comes of that. But I don't intend to hang up my boots just yet, but we'll go on for another few years, hopefully keep everything going, particularly in my mother's memory and as a service to the people of Enniskillen, who are very much at the centre of this whole business, and also the people of Newtown Butler, who are very much central to that business. So hopefully they will remain loyal and we'll keep doing our best for them.